Hi, everybody. Welcome to Try to Capital to the Coast BNI. My name is Mike Manning. Each week, we bring you a local small business success story from one of the two BNI regions that make up Capital to the Coast. One is Triangle BNI, and that is in the Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill area. And the other one is Coastal NC BNI, which is basically New Bern, Jacksonville, Wilmington, along the beaches, if you're familiar with North Carolina. If you are not familiar with BNI, it is Business Networking International, the world's largest networking organization. And each week, amongst the 41 chapters that meet, our goal is to help each other grow their business by referrals, business, anything like that. And our local small business success story this week is Amanda Chilton, founder and owner of Oak City Marketing. Amanda is in Profits in the Park BNI chapter. They meet Tuesdays at 9 a.m. at the Morrisville Chamber of Commerce. She is also a fellow BNI consulting director like me. And Amanda, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Mike. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. So we're going to talk, folks, a lot about growing a custom small business, all right, because she's very gifted at stuff that a lot of us aren't good at. We think we are, but we're really not. And she's got vast experience in other jobs. Got a wedding coming up. We're going to talk about that. And we're going to talk about just all kinds of things. So, all right. So, Amanda's company, Oak City Marketing, is let me see if I got this right, Amanda. Okay. A custom social media content and authentic engagement at at a price small business owners can afford. So when I work with small business owners or talk with small business owners, I tell them from day -1, the two things you need to outsource are your bookkeeping and your social media, because you won't be consistent with either one of them, and you're probably not a topic expert in that.
Mm.
So how did you, or when did you first start enjoying and learning about social media?
Oh gosh, first started enjoying social media back in the MySpace stage. Unfortunately, I wasn't one of those folks that was really able to do all the coding and like make my own layouts, but I loved social media. Loved connecting with people online. So really, since I was probably like, I don't know, what was that, like 13 years old, 12 years old, something like that.
Now, social media today, a lot of people think of it as, well, there's just a bunch of blowhards on social media talking politics and how everybody's wrong, all that stuff. But from a business standpoint, what are some of the things we need to think about? Because I love the way you talk about two things: engagement and messaging. So
Mhm.
let's talk about the messaging part of it first. From a small business standpoint, what do we have to keep in mind of what do we really want out there about our business versus, and let's separate us from that, but what do we want out there about our business?
Yeah, for sure. So I think one of the things that a lot of business owners miss when it comes to social media is having a strategy and a plan in place before they start. So it's really important to think about like what are your goals, whether they be short term or long term? Who are you wanting to connect with? And being very specific about who that person is, right? Because if your message is for everybody, your message is for nobody. So being very honed in on who that person is and really speaking directly to that person with those goals in mind.
So one of the things in BNI, and you as a so Amanda and I are both consulting directors in Triangle BNI, which means we work each month with a chapter or chapters on just helping them get better. So we're helping with, they have attendance things, if they have membership things, whatever's going on, we're there to help. And so you go to enough meetings, and I think absolutely everything starts with the elevator pitch. And I love the fact that you say messaging to nobody, because most people stand up, and I did this too when my brother and I first started our first company. We can help everybody and anybody. And in reality, we had a commercial cleaning business, and we couldn't clean, if we got an account for 6 floors in one of these tall North Hills buildings, we couldn't have done that. And so, what
Mhm.
do you recommend to your clients? That do you have to keep asking them to, like, okay, let's shrink it, let's keep really saying this is what it is?
Yeah, I mean, I think it really depends on what your goal is, right? Like, let's say take a real estate agent, for example, right? Like just saying, I want to meet people who want to buy or sell a house. Well, that's very vague. And reaching that specific person, it's just a matter of timing, really. So with real estate agents, you're building a lot of brand awareness and a lot of that know, like, and trust factor. So it may not be as specific sometimes. But as we say, specific is terrific. So specific can be really great, right? So let's say you're really wanting to focus on first time home buyers, millennials, that are just getting their feet wet in it. They're really interested in investing. So maybe you start talking about, okay, let's say you're 25 and in the next 5 years you want to buy a house. And then you want to go from there and you want to sell that house and continue to build your portfolio. So you would have a very specific, almost like series of content that you would go about to reach that person and build that relationship with them to develop that trust, if that makes sense.
It does. How important is it for us to separate our business from our personal thoughts and beliefs and daily activities on social media?
This is a great question. I personally have very strong opinions about this. What I will say is that all actions have consequences, whether they be negative or positive. And if political activism is a part of your brand or your religion is a part of your brand, I think it's okay in certain situations to include that in your business messaging, but you also have to understand that there are certain people who won't want to work with you because of those things. And if you're okay with that, then that's fine. Generally speaking, I think that once you become a business owner and you are your business and you are your brand, that you have to be very, very careful about what you're putting on your personal social media, particularly if you're also using that platform to promote your business.
Yeah, and I think that's more prevalent today than it was even 5 years ago. But Michael Jordan has people have been on him for years about why he's rarely, if ever, taken a political stance. And he had a great line one day, and they said, "Oh, how come you don't do this?" He goes, "Because Republicans buy shoes too." Right, which summed it up. I
And
mean,
in that statement alone, he made very clear where he stands
yes,
without
yeah, yeah.
going into too much detail.
And then he never had to answer that question again because people
Yeah,
knew it's like, okay, I get that. But I think your message is correct in that it's what you're comfortable, let me say it this way, what you can afford to be comfortable with, or what you think you're happy dealing with, because sometimes you may not know what's coming your way.
yeah, for sure. And I think it goes back to knowing your audience. And if you feel like, okay, the people that I want to work with are going to resonate with this message, then I think that that's okay. But you just don't want to be out there all willy nilly posting
Yeah,
whatever. Like, you need to be very intentional about what messaging you're putting out.
yeah. And I agree with you. And so the bottom line is, if you wanted to do it, but just be prepared, it may or may not come back at you, but
Absolutely.
you need to be prepared for that. Yeah.
Absolutely. And cancel culture is very real. So
Oh gosh, sadly
even
true. Yeah.
locally. So
Yeah.
so be careful.
Yeah. I hear you on that. All right. So January 2023, you opened up Oak City Marketing officially.
I
So
did.
I'm always interested in how the name of the company came to be. So walk me through that.
Yeah, so I am from Raleigh, born and raised in this area. So, I really have a heart for my community, a heart for local businesses. And so that's really where that came from. I really wanted it to be triangle focused and Raleigh focused. So that's really where the name came from. I went with Oak City Marketing instead of Oak City Social Media so that I can, continue to grow my services and really grow to be more of a full service agency than just specifically focused on social media.
And you and I are good because you went to Enlow, I went to Millbrook, so we're good.
Okay.
It's the Carrie and the Sanderson people that made fun of my school. We had no
Yeah.
beef with Enlow, so yeah, no beef with Enlow. But
Perfect. Perfect.
so let's talk about the evolution of your own business. All right, we know January 2023 is official, but it's all the better stories I've found are the first day I thought about. So, yeah, doing that. So, when did this first start coming into your head that one day I want to do this?
Yeah, so I think like most business owners, my origin story kind of relates back to some trauma working for someone else. I think if you talk to any business owner, they'll tell you they have some traumatic story with some boss that they had. So, uh, Joel and I actually both worked for this company, and it was a great place to be. We thought we were going to retire there, and then the current owners of the company had sold the company and went off to sail around the world, which was great, and we love that for them. But the person that they sold it to um, did not have the same mindset that they did, and it became a very toxic place to work. And so, kind of the entire staff kind of trickled out slowly, and it actually the company doesn't exist anymore because of all of this. But I really went through like kind of an identity crisis when this happened because I was so sure that this was where I was going to retire. And so I did a lot of soul searching. I had gone to my pastor and asked for some advice. And he actually said to me then, "Well, why don't you start a business?" And I was like, "Doing what?" And he was like, "I don't know. What are you good at?" And it really took me a while from there to really get to the point that I was like, it makes perfect sense for me to do this. I had done this previously. I worked at Triumph Gymnastics and did all of their social media. And I had gotten laid off during COVID, which was how I ended up at this other place. Um, but yeah, after some soul searching and really thinking about it, and what he said just kept kind of replaying through my mind. And I ended up going back into the service industry waiting tables, and my friend who owned a restaurant kind of gave me my first shot at running her social media and really encouraged me to start my own business. And I did, and the rest is kind of history.
Without asking revenue numbers, anything specific like that, has it kind of followed the trajectory you thought it would?
I, you know, eh, yes and no. I think the biggest thing that is has changed that I wasn't expecting was when I first started my business, I really wanted to focus on trades because I've worked in those kinds of industries. A lot of the people I love are tradespeople. And so I was really passionate about that. Um, but it just kind of naturally and organically has gone in a different direction,
Mm.
which is not really what I had expected. So I'm still really passionate about that industry and love to work with those people. But I found that I've kind of transitioned a lot more into like real estate and things like that.
And we learn those along the way because our customers, if we truly listen, our customers tell us almost everything we need to know about our business because they'll tell us what we're doing, good, bad, or indifferent. When we look at it, it's like,
Hmm.
huh, I don't know about that. But
Yeah.
when a potential client shows up, not out of the blue, but just kind of out of the area or comfort zone, whatever you want to call that, it's
Yeah.
like, and then you had to think for a second, like, huh, and then it
Yeah.
took off,
For
right?
sure. Yeah, for sure.
Now,
It's interesting the way that it goes.
what did you have to learn about those new industries versus the service industry, if there was anything new to learn?
Like as compared to the trades, like
Hmm.
real estate versus trade.
Yeah.
So with my trades clients, it's very much like I kind of just go out while they're doing their job and either get like behind the scenes or ask them some questions and do kind of interview style. And it happens very organically. It's easy. It doesn't take a whole lot of planning, to be honest. But when you get into real estate, it's a very chaotic industry. There, the market changes so fast, and their goals change all the time. And they may think, okay, today I'm doing this, but then it completely flips, and they have to go do something else. And also, like building that brand awareness, it's a very different kind of content. They're doing a lot more entertaining things or things that involve more planning or production. So it's a lot more involved for sure working with those kinds of clients.
Yeah, you mean when interest rates go from 2.75 to 6.75? Is that the things you're talking about where
Yeah.
it's like, wait a
Yeah, for
minute?
sure, for sure.
But then you kind of have to get a little, the creative side of you comes out at that point, right?
Yes, and it's fun, it's a lot of fun, it's just a lot of work.
So, with the business owners you are working with on the social media portion of their life and their business, what things have you learned about promoting your own that you've kind of applied to helping them promote and grow their businesses?
I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm very much like the cobbler's kids when it comes to my own marketing, and I think that's why people need it so much because when you try to do it yourself, it just always
Yeah.
becomes last priority, and I think even that in and of itself has really helped me to build my business and connect and help my clients because I understand that as business owners, we always become last priority, and I think that that's made a huge difference for sure.
Yeah, in social media, I've seen this enough. You've seen it way more, but I've seen it enough to kind of draw this pattern. Is no, 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 I can do that. And the first week, their goal is to just post three things. And their goal is like
Mhm.
whatever day, whatever time. I just want to congratulate myself saying I posted three things, right? And then week two, it's like, oh. And then by week three, they're like, I don't know what else to say. And then all of a sudden you get on their either their website or their social media somewhere, and the last thing that they posted was from March of 2024.
Oh, for sure. And, I think that first I'll say, I do think everyone is capable of doing their own social media. It's typically just a matter of do you have the time and the energy to invest in that? So I do coaching as well for folks that do want to do it themselves. But I think that people that try to do it themselves very quickly learn that they just don't have the energy or the time or really the desire to actually do it. Um, I forget what the other thing I was gonna say, but that's a big thing
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, and I guess a lot of us, the consumer looks for creativity in a post. It's like, oh man, that is so cool. But you, as the business consultant, you're like, no, dude, it is all about consistency.
Oh, 100%. Consistency, I think quality comes into play too. Like if you're posting 2 to 3 times a day, but it's not hitting your target market or not on the right message, or it just quite frankly looks terrible, then you're kind of wasting your time doing that.
How do we know, or what kind of things do we need to put out there that is going to get engagement? And before you answer that, if you'll explain why somebody liking your post is really not helping your business as much as you think it is.
I mean, I think engagement is important, and again, it really goes back to what your goals are, like if your goal right now is to get a very quick return, then you need to be running an ad. If you're not giving money to Meta or whatever platform you're using, it's going to be a long process. Um, I'm sorry, can you repeat your question again?
Yeah, just the difference between, because initially, for those of us who don't do it as a profession, we think, hey, I posted this, I got 74 likes, but
Mhm.
only one person engaged.
Right.
And that's not really the number one goal is the likes most times, correct?
I think it just depends, everybody has different goals. Obviously, people liking your content is a good thing. And the more
Mhm.
likes you get, the more the algorithm's going to push your content out. Obviously, those comments and having conversations, that's really like, the creme de la creme of social media. And I think the best way to go about that is just being authentic and again, being specific and remembering who you're talking to. And if you're really connecting with that person, that's where you're going to start getting that engagement. I think people often, and this is part of why people have so much hesitation about creating their own content, is they think, oh, I'm putting this out and I'm talking to the whole world. And that's just
Mhm.
not the case. When you are able to look at the camera and say, okay, I'm talking to, this single mom that, really needs help with X, Y, or Z, like that helps you connect with that individual person. And that's where you get the engagement and that's where you start building relationships and trust.
If I post something on social media and you engage on that, means you answer that or ask a follow-up question, anything like that, what are my next thoughts on what I should do with your answer, question, whatever you posted?
I think it just depends on what the answer is, right? You can keep the conversation going in the comments. You could take a screenshot or reply back to that with a video. So you can use your engagement to fuel future content.
But the goal is to continue, or one of the goals is to continue engagement.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of goals when it comes to social media, but I think when we're looking at overarching holistically, the goal is really to build that know, like, and trust and to separate yourself from your competitors by being someone that people want to work with. They call it social media network for a reason. It's just like networking and you're building relationships just like you would when you go to a BNI meeting.
Yep, I hear you on that. When January in 2023, you woke up that morning and you were officially in business. First of all, did you sleep okay the night before? And what was the first day, the first couple days like in trying to get a business literally started from scratch?
Oh gosh, I don't can't remember if I slept well or exactly where my head was at. I mean, it's definitely scary. It's a huge risk to start your own business. I was working a part-time job at the same time, so it wasn't quite as much pressure. But I think, I would say most business owners they start and they don't really know what they're doing. And that's why we BNI, right? Because we have all these people that can give us the expertise that we don't have. And so I think it was I kind of felt like a baby deer, like, wobbling out there trying to figure it out. And I think that it's something that you just kind of learn as you go, honestly.
When did you reach the point that you realized, okay, I think this is going to work?
Honestly, when I had to quit my part-time job, I think once I was like, I don't have time to focus on anything but this, that's when I knew like I really got something here.
Now, that's a great point. So, explain to the folks listening and watching what had to happen. I think I know the answer, but walk us through your scenario. What had to happen for you to get to the point to quit your part-time job that was bringing in, you know, consistent revenue?
Yeah, well, I will say, like, I have been very blessed to have Joel as my partner, and that, on the days that I'm not bringing in as much money, he's able to carry more of the weight. And so I definitely recognize that I'm in a unique position to be able to do that. But as far as making that decision, once you're sitting at your other job and all you're thinking about is like what I want to do for my business and like taking breaks to go post content and things like that. Once I couldn't focus and give that job the energy that it deserved, that's when I knew I really need to focus on this.
Good. Do you have one of those seats in BNI where the second somebody hears what you do, they've got a question for you?
Um, Sometimes I think it depends on the person. I think a lot of people hear social media and still think like, "Oh, I don't need that." And a
Yeah.
lot of people are very stuck onto traditional marketing. Um, but people definitely have questions. I think the thing with social media is that it's so like people just don't understand it to the point that they don't even know what questions they have.
And if I may give some friendly advice to business owners listening, and you can confirm what I believe is correct, to get to the clients, your future clients who are closer to your age, Amanda, than my age, let's just say it that way, because I have two sons, and I think we talked about this, they're roughly your age. And the three of us share a lot of sports talk stuff, our
Mhm.
favorite teams, funny things, stuff going on like that. I am more apt to send them a post, and they're more apt to send me video. And video right now is king in most
Mhm.
places, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
So when you do you have cousins or brothers or sisters?
Yes.
Okay. When you guys get together, are you kind of like with my boys, they're kind of sharing videos.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, my brother lives in Brooklyn, so we communicate quite a bit through social media and just through different reels, typically like funny things that make us think of our parents, things like that.
So folks, if you're not up speed on videos, you don't have to do just videos, but you better get up speed
Yeah.
videos because her generation, the what gen are you? Gen
I'm a millennial.
You're a millennial. Okay. So
Yeah,
then Gen Z is after you, X,
correct.
Y, and okay. So those are
Yep.
the folks, if those are the clients you're looking at, folks, you better figure out video because that's what's going to get their attention. And at the end of the day, Amanda, that's really what we're trying to do is stop somebody from scrolling so fast.
Absolutely. 100%. You want to hook them in and you got about 3 seconds to do it. So you better make an impact quick.
Would you like to repeat that time frame, please? You have how
You got
long?
about 3 seconds.
All right, folks. I don't know if you knew that, but that's legit. So think
Yep.
about when you scroll through, you as the consumer scroll through social media, what makes you stop on something? In a
Hmm.
1 minute video, I'm probably 8 seconds in. I'm like, I don't have time for this. So, yeah.
Yeah, you gotta
Uh,
be packing in a lot of value to get somebody to watch for a minute plus.
yeah. All right. So, knowing what you know today, what would current day Amanda tell day one Amanda about running her own business?
The first thing would be exactly what you said, which is the first thing you need to outsource is your accounting. Get a bookkeeper because I am not a bookkeeper and I tried to pretend like I could figure that out. I could not. A bookkeeper, an attorney, get an attorney to draft your contracts. And I had actually put out this question on like one of the women's Facebook groups about what did you wish you had known when you first started your business? And I asked this before I started and like I heard the advice, but I didn't necessarily take it. And one
Yeah.
of the things that someone said is build processes early. And that is so huge and so true is just write down everything you do, write down how you do it, build out those processes. Because once your business starts taking off and you get to the point that you're ready to outsource, if you don't have that stuff in writing, you're really like shooting yourself in the foot.
From a business standpoint, did you learn something that not necessarily the social media part of it, just everything that is involved in running a business? Did you start doing something it's like, oh, well, this part I'm pretty good at?
I think most of the things I was good at, I already kind of knew that I was good at. I had worked in a number of administrative roles, and so I'm really good at those things. I'm really good with people. I'm good at organizing other people's schedules and delegating to them and making sure that everybody's staying on task. So I think those are some of the biggest things that I've brought to my business that have helped me be successful.
When you were telling family members and close friends that you were going to start your own business, and you don't have to name names unless you want to, were you surprised who you got support and didn't get support from?
Um, that's another one of the things that a lot of people said is the worst clients are going to be your family and friends, and a lot of them aren't going to support you the way that you think that they will. And I wouldn't say I was surprised. I got a lot of support from my mom and family members and things like that. Um, yeah, I don't think there was a whole lot of surprise there, and I built so many relationships with other business owners, and I'd say that's where most of my support system really comes from is from people who can really relate
Yeah, I'm
to the
sure it,
struggle.
yeah. Oh, yeah. And I'm sure in what you do, you've had enough people, wouldn't say a number of, I'll just say enough people that kind of wanted you to do that for them for free-ish because Amanda, we're buds.
I think it's definitely a thing that people don't really understand the amount of work that goes into it, and so people don't understand how much the service costs, and so that's been a big thing is I have a lot of people that'll come to me kind of kicking tires, just wanting to know, like, if and when I do this, how much is it going to cost?
Yeah, because even if you can create an awesome post in 7 minutes, it doesn't matter that it took 7 minutes. What I'm paying for is the awesome post.
100%. 100%.
All right. So usually at this time of the show, I get to ask one of my favorite questions. And while you are engaged to Joel, who is
Mhm.
also in your BNI chapter, we'll give a shout out to
Yeah.
Joel of all trades. So
Yeah.
anybody living in the triangle needs something done around their house, Joel of all trades. So you two are engaged. The wedding is soon, isn't it?
It is September 27th. It is
All
coming up
righty.
real fast. I actually
So,
just got back from my bachelorette weekend.
ooh, where was that?
We went to Lake Gaston.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
It was
Everybody
awesome.
deserves that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Good,
Yeah,
good,
it
good.
was great.
So I always ask my married guest, and I'll just go ahead and throw you in there because you guys almost already are. And if you're
Yeah.
not, he's going to have to leave Profits in the Park chapter because there's no way you're leaving. So we know Joel will have to leave.
Yeah.
How did you two meet, and do you both tell the story the same way?
Oh, that's a good question. We actually met on Tinder. So the story of how we met is not really like a story that we tell per se. It's not a secret that we met on Tinder, but it's just not that exciting of a story. Um, we Our first date was awesome. And I will say we probably do tell it differently because Joel is very much a storyteller more so than I am. And so I would say he gives the long version of the story.
I do that in my relationship with Becky as well. Somebody will say,
Yeah.
"How did you two meet?" And I just look at her. She goes, "Okay, you tell it." Because mine is
Exactly.
way more flattering and way better than hers. Not that hers isn't good, but
Yeah.
my descriptions are way better because
Yeah.
I saw her before she saw me. She heard
Aw.
me first. We're in a small group of the same people. We'd run in the same group for like a year, never met each other. I saw her walking to the group, and walking in the group, she didn't see me, but she was standing behind me. She heard me and claims, "Ooh, I like that voice. I need to meet him," which I told her I don't buy for a second. But anyways, uh,
Yeah, our first date, I would say the part that we both really love to tell the most. It's a long story, so I won't go into the whole thing today. But while we were out, we saw probably 10 people that knew Joel, and they'd be like across the street, like Joel, and like they were all so excited to see him, and it was like such a green flag that all these random people were like just jazzed that Joel was there.
well, good. And now that you've been in a relationship, well, you've been in long enough. Becky and I've been in a long, long time. You learn
Mhm.
about those little things that you don't think about. Because, like, oh, I want somebody that loves this and loves that. And you're making a list. Like, Becky's first thing is, I want to marry somebody that likes to dance, and I cannot dance, and she loves me anyways,
Oh.
which is good, right? But
Yeah.
you're looking for those red and green and yellow flags, and they
Yep.
come out of the blue. Where like, oh, that's good to know.
Yeah. 100%. For
And
sure, and
my
we've been
guess
together almost
is
7 years, so I know him pretty well now.
So my guess is his introductions of you to those people for the very first time were probably flattering, right?
100%.
Yeah. Okay. Smart man.
Yeah,
Smart
Joel
man.
is a charmer for sure.
It's worked every day on you, right?
Oh, yeah.
Good. Good for you. Good for you. All right. So in 2009, you enrolled, according to your LinkedIn bio, hope this is right.
I
In
could tell
two,
you've been on my LinkedIn.
I'm looking for the fun stuff, so I go all over the
Yeah.
place. Yeah. And by the way, I'll tell you later. There's another person with your name in. It's like, that's not the Amanda I'm looking for." 2009, you enrolled at UNC Wilmington. You
Yep,
ended up with a degree in theater design and technology. So on
yep.
day one in 2009, what was the plan?
That was the plan. I was a theater kid in high school. I went to Enloe, which has a huge theater program, and I had done some costuming in high school. My first experience with costuming, so that was my focus in college was costume design. and we did a production of Sweeney Todd, and I was distressing some costumes, and she ended up using it for one of like the main characters in the show, and like I just really fell in love with it after that and learned how to sew. And so I knew when I went into college that I was going for theater.
So and I too am not working in my degree field from college.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what decision or what introduction to something started you not off that path in a bad way, but to kind of where you are today?
I think by the time that I graduated, I was a little burnout on it. Um, Sewing can be really hard on your body. Uh, Seamstress shops can be a toxic environment sometimes. And so I just wasn't like feeling it for that point in my life. It's also very, very difficult to get a paying job in theater. So I applied here and there, but really I ended up going back into the service industry, waiting tables, which I think happens to a lot of theater majors. And I stayed in that for quite some time. It wasn't until 2017 I broke my ankle while skimboarding and I was bartending full time. And so that's what kind of transitioned me into working at the gymnastics school because I can't bartend with a broken leg. And it all just kind of organically developed from there to
Okay.
bring me here.
Because it's funny what introductions we get. And I've always told people, talk to anyone about anything you just don't know. And talking to someone
Yeah.
doesn't mean you're about to quit your job, and it's generally free, or at the most, it's going to cost you a cup of coffee. So talk to everyone you can because you just never know. All right.
Absolutely.
So in your previous lives, bartender, a server, you worked in retail, you worked in social media. So looking back on what you have now in your business, what kind of things did you draw from those other experiences slash businesses?
Oh gosh, all kinds of stuff. So obviously working in the service industry, it's a very people oriented business. So that's the main thing that I got from those jobs is just learning how to interact with people, how to have conversations, how to when you have somebody at a table for 45 minutes, you have that 45 minutes to build a connection with them. And so I think I learned a lot from that for sure. And then in my administrative roles, just building processes. I've worked for a couple small businesses, so I can I've taken the things that I liked from what they did and the things that I thought that could have been improved upon and tried to incorporate those things into my business. So, really every experience has brought me to where I am and has made me the person and the business owner that I am.
All right. So if there's a second episode between me and you, we might just
Okay.
talk your bartending job the whole time, and you can change the names
Okay.
if you want. But the bartenders, I worked a couple of years here and there with jobs in the food and beverage world, and it was new to me the first time I did it. And then I learned the bartending role and the bartender stories. Man, are those good.
There are some good ones for sure. It's
Do you,
a unique industry for sure.
It is. Do you have one you would like to share with us? Without
Oh
you can change the name
gosh.
if you want.
I'll have to think about it. Not off the top of my head.
Okay. All right. You enjoy creating arts of all kind and
Very
traveling
much
and
so.
reading. So when you're exposed to all of those images and all that stuff, do you sometimes see something and go, let me make a mental note of that for one day I might use that with a client?
Yeah, so there's actually I started doing this recently with my clients on Instagram. You can save reels. And so you can put those reels in a collection and you can collaborate on those collections. So I'll put things that say like, "Oh wow." So like I work with the Boone team, right? So I'll be like, "Wow, this really makes me think of Jeff and Amy." And so I'll put that in a folder where we can look at it later and it helps us plan for our content so that when we actually get together to film, we know like, okay, we're doing this, this, and this. So that's a great way to kind of collaborate. And some of the things, like some of my clients have their own ideas. Some of them just come, off the top of the head. One piece of advice that I definitely give to people that want to create their own content because consuming content can be a lot is that you should create before you consume. Okay. So
I
say
like
that
that.
again.
I like that a lot.
Yeah,
Keep,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, expand on that a little bit.
Sorry, you got really quiet for a second. Um, I think there's a lot of research out there about consuming too much social media is really bad for your mental health. So I think
Yeah.
that's part of it. Part of it is just building boundaries. And it's really easy to be influenced by all these outside forces. And sometimes it makes us lose connection with who we are, what's authentically us. And while I think consuming is a good way to get inspired, it's important to create before you just dive into, doom scrolling on your phone.
So, in your business world, you are a number of things with regard to social media and businesses, but you consider yourself obviously a content creator.
I would say I would almost go so far to say as I am primarily a content creator.
Okay.
So one of the things that really sets me apart is that I do come out and create capture the content and create the content for you. My content is very video heavy. I do a lot of editing. And so that's one of the things that really sets me apart from some other social media managers. I also spend a lot of time like really getting to know my client and what their goals are and who they're talking about or talking to and like everything that I can know about their business so that when I'm putting their content out there, it seems as though it's them doing it.
So, for the folks watching, and to share a couple of tips for them if they've been thinking about, oh yeah, I post all the time. We're not going to talk about, oh, I'd be good at it. Let's just talk about, well, I think that would be fun to do as a business. So, what's a couple of tips you want to share with them to kind of what do they kind of need to have in place or an understanding of before they truly go out on their own, whether it's part time or full time?
Folks that want to do social media for a business.
Mhm.
Honestly, I think one of the biggest things is just do it. I know that sounds really vague and kind of cliche, but you learn so much just by doing it and creating and trying different things. And there's just a lot of things that you can't learn without doing the hands-on part of it. So I think letting go of the fear and just diving in and committing to it is one of the biggest pieces of advice that I could give to somebody that's interested. Um, and also like build out processes. Um, Make sure your clients know that you care about them. I think that's another thing that really sets me apart. A lot of marketing people are really just trying to sell at you. Whereas I really want to be a part of your team and really understand your business like on a deep level. So I think that's really important too, because you're just not going to come across authentic if you're just doing like random templated stuff in Canva and it's just going that extra mile. Does that make sense?
It does. So, for a small business owner who hasn't hired you or anyone like you yet, should they be putting together topics or something? What should they be putting together to help explain or describe their business on social media?
I think the most important thing is again just having a strategy. So all of my clients, the first thing we do is a strategy session. And during that strategy session, we talk about okay, what are your goals? Who is your target audience? And you need to get as specific as possible. Then we start talking about content pillars, which are basically like thematic buckets of content. And they could be anything, and it just depends on your brand and what you're trying to do. The easiest example is educate, entertain, promote. So you don't want to be selling at people all the time. That's really important. But if you can categorize your content, it helps you to stay on message and it helps your audience to know what to expect from you. Some other examples would be like maybe testimonials, how to's, behind the scenes. It could be a number of things. And I recommend that people keep it to 3 or 4 different pillars. Then once you have your pillars, you can start breaking down like, okay, this is the specific content that I want to create. And then once you go from there, you can start actually developing that content. We also talk about what um, KPIs, key performance indicators, are important to you. So if you're really focused on follower growth or you really want a bunch of comments, like we talk about what's important to you. And then I think the biggest thing that people miss is outbound engagement. So it is about being social, it is about building relationships, and it's not about just like posting content, right? So if you want to connect with people, you have to go out there and interact with their content too, whether it be liking or commenting or asking questions. That's how you really start to build a following and build relationships and build trust through social media.
I like when I learn things today. I just learned that. I had not heard of that, but it makes perfect sense because they want
Yeah,
to know there's a connection there.
100%. 100%.
So I like, I'm a big fan of putting things into buckets. And my good friend, Trinity French, who's a realtor,
Yep.
says that Trinity connects or she collects people. And I've always loved that because that's in the most positive way. She just wants to meet people and get to know people. And we even have friends and business people in buckets. And I'm sure I'm in people's buckets. I get moved around based on the length of my relationship, or if all of a sudden we saw each other again and move back up and things like that. So I do
Yeah.
like the educate, entertain, and promote. Yeah. Because that's like a good
Yeah.
podcast. A good podcast educates and entertains.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that's the easiest one for people to really get started with. And as you start creating content, you might find that you go in a different direction, or something else might work better for you if you're a product based business. So it's really, it all depends on you, and you're not married to it, right? So if you decide, wow, this really doesn't work for me, you can change it later, and that's fine.
All right, folks, we've been putting Amanda's phone number up on the screen during the show. Please call her and talk to her for a quick minute or two to understand why you need her. And again, like I said at the beginning of the show, I stand by this statement: outsource your bookkeeping, outsource your social media, because you're not going to have time to do that if you're a painter, a realtor, a CPA, all of that stuff. You're just not going to have time. And you find experts like Amanda, you outsource to them, and all of a sudden you're making more money and business is growing, and everybody's happy. So, Amanda, appreciate having you on the show today. Thank you for the tips, and good luck with the wedding.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate you having me.
And we will see everybody next time on Capital to the Coast BNI.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by StreamingGear.com and DeltaForce.net.